Well, the clouds are moving in. It's going to rain pretty good tomorrow. Hello everyone, Lawrence Fleming here again. I've already made one video today for release tomorrow, but I'm going to go ahead and make another one. We've got a big storm coming in. Nothing monstrous, but rain. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get out and what I'm going to be able to do. We're still in the season where we're going to get storms every 3 or 4 days. It's normal. We're in the south. That's why there's so much green showing up behind me. So anyhow, we're going to talk a couple of things. One, since we can't really confirm a whole lot of what's coming ahead of us, we want to at least look at the fig tree generation. And then we're going to look at what Jesus felt about those that were in power in Jerusalem. And he talked about the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Here you are, you have the city of God, basically, of the chosen people, and right off the bat you've got two different factions, Sadducees and Pharisees. One believed in the resurrection, one didn't. So obviously one doesn't believe Christ died for us. But we're going to look at, first I want to look at the fig tree generation. And this should be a standard reference for all of you, but I just want to read this for a few that maybe haven't heard it. It's the parable of the fig tree. It's in Matthew 24. And it would be in verse 32. Now learn the parable from the fig tree. When its branches already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. He's teaching us how to recognize the seasons. So you also, when you see these things, know that it is near, at the doors. Surely I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words by no means pass away. So the generation that sees all the things that were talked about before, go back and read all of Matthew 24, but all those things that were talked about, Jacob's sorrows, all the things that are going to happen, then we will see the return of Christ. Now, of course, he's obviously talking here about the second coming. There's very little. There's a few places where you can point where he's talking about the rapture, but most of it has to do with the second coming, because to the Jews, that's the most important part. So let's go back in Matthew 23, and Jesus is speaking to the multitudes again, but he's speaking to them about his religious leaders. This is him talking. The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat, a seat of authority, basically. Therefore, whatever they tell you to observe, that you observe and do, but do not according to their works. For they say and do not do. For they bind heavy burdens, hard to bear, and lay them on men's shoulders. But they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their works they do to be seen by men. They make their phylacteries broad and enlarge their borders of their garments. They love the best places in feasts, the best seats in the synagogues, greetings in the marketplace, and to be called by men, Rabbi, Rabbi. Basically means teacher, but a teacher of God's word. Jesus was called that too. But you do not be called Rabbi, for one is your teacher, Jesus. And you are all brethren. Do not call anyone on earth your father, for one is your Father, he who is in heaven. And do not be called teacher, for one is your teacher, the Christ. But he who is the greatest among you shall be your servant. And whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. This is Jesus talking. He's telling us what we can do. You want to be recognized by God? Be a good servant. But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. For you neither go in yourself, nor do you allow others who are entering to go in. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Again, he says that. For you devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayers. Therefore you will receive greater condemnation. And he continues on. It is sad that whenever God appoints somebody a leader, they often are corrupted by that leadership. You know, the adage, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Don't let your job go to your head, no matter what kind of job you have, religious or secular. You can be replaced in an instant. Now, it may be difficult, but you can be replaced. And within a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, you won't even be missed. You should be helping people. If you're at a regular job, you should be helping people. A good leader knows how to do everything that the people working for him need to know how to do, so he can show them. The captain of a ship, and I was in the Navy, needs to be able to do, or at least have seen done, pretty much everything on the ship. It's all his responsibility. And if one of those links and those chains break, his ship can sink, the one he's responsible for, and all the men that are on it could die. And if you're a Star Trek fan like me, it's the same thing. The captain's responsible for everything. How many times have you seen him crawl into a hole, into a Jeffries tube? It was named after the designer of the ship, by the way, Jeffrey. Crawl into something and fix something or do something. Yeah, the rest of his crew did that too, but he could do it. It's not always find Scotty. My captain, I'm giving her all she's got. And Scotty, played by James Doohan, he was brought in to do voices. Whenever a computer talked, had a human voice, the female voice was Roddenberry's wife, Majel, and if it was a male voice, it was James Doohan. And at one point in time when they were, because they made an original pilot and it got kicked back, and then they were forced to make another first episode, Roddenberry came up to Doohan, because he could do voices and things, and says, can you do a Scottish voice? Because I think we ought to have a Scotsman in charge of the ship. Scotsmen were shipbuilders in the days of the wooden ships. And of course he did that. If you watch long enough, you can see his accent drop sometimes. But anyhow, God needs everyone doing their part. No one should be in charge 100%, because it will corrupt them. The early church, the early Catholic Church, the Church of England, look at how corrupt they got. And they may have meant well in the beginning, but it didn't end well. And I did want to give you the, before I wrap up here, Psalm 90:10 talks about the days of our lives and not the TV show. The days of our lives are 70 years, and if by reason of strength, they are 80 years. That's a generation. Now, there are people that die well before that, and there are people that die well after that. A lady today died who was said to be the oldest person alive. She was 119. And after the flood and when everything settled down, it was said that our lifespan should be 120 years. Well, for a long time, people haven't been able to live that long because we didn't have the technology, the knowledge, or the good behavior. Like I said, people can live a lot less than 70 or 80 if they misbehave. I mean, many of our, quote, celebrities let that pedestal they were on elevate their head too high, and they end up killing themselves. Some with obvious suicide, some with drugs, rich behavior, too much drinking, too much partying. You can do too much of anything except God. So if you want to do something a lot, focus on God and do what He gave us for a commandment. Tell people. We are simply to be witnesses. Now, we're not witnesses of the actual event anymore because there's no one around, but we have a history book, and we can be a witness of this book. Tell people about it. It is not your job to win souls. It is simply your job to tell people. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I'm going to tack some more footage from around the campsite. I hope you like the footage from here because I really enjoy it. You really need to get out and experience it for yourselves. But if you can't, enjoy my videos as long as I'm camping, which I'm going to be for the next few weeks, maybe a couple of months here, until it gets way too hot. Georgia can get, 100 degrees humidity. I've got about another week down here, and then I'm going to go up into the mountains where it's a little cooler. But even there, it gets too hot. It's still the East Coast. And we don't have mountains here. We have hills. They may call it Stone Mountain to the east of us here, but it's just a big rock. And even in the mountains where we can look across and see, 4 different states, it isn't that high. I'm originally from the West Coast, so I can go from sea level surfing. If I never did surf because I had to wear glasses, but I could have been surfing in the morning and snow skiing in the afternoon. California is probably the prettiest state in the country because it's got everything. It's big. California and Texas are big states and they've got a lot of everything. But California really has the beauty. The redwood forests. San Francisco Bay is very pretty. But unfortunately, it has become the home of the socialists. And they're destroying it, as all socialists do. Socialists only survive on one condition. There's enough people with enough money that they can steal to keep the government going. And then when it runs out, it's difficult. And then the only way they can keep it together is by force and fear. We've seen it repeated time and time again, but Satan never gives up. He knows he isn't going to win, but he won't quit trying. Do what you can, but after a while, throw your hands up. I left California to come here to Georgia. Yes, I miss it back there, but every time I go back, I'm disappointed. I grew up in the Hollywood and West Hollywood area. I went to school there. I wanted to be a part of that, but I didn't like the scenes that I saw. So I come to Georgia, and I was telling God that I missed being out there and having an opportunity. He moves the movie industry here for me. Me and everybody else who wishes it was here. That's why I do the bit that I do. I'm having a rethink, though, on a lot of my work. I'm working this Saturday for an independent film. I don't know when I'm going to do my next major studio film, because if you look and see who owns everything, remember Absolute Power Corrupts? Look at how much Disney owns. They own all the big blockbusters, they own Marvel, Star Wars, and now they decided to play politics. They supposedly lost 42 million or billion, it doesn't matter, it's all zeros. But they don't care, no apology. They had their free governing rules of Florida taken away from them just recently. Again, they don't care. Satan doesn't care. He owns the world. God owns the world first, but he's given Satan temporary power over it. And he's going to give him a lot more coming up. And all this stuff going on, the left doesn't care, because they've got the crazy belief that Satan can do anything, and they may or may not actually believe that they're doing this, but they're worshiping him, not God, because they're worshiping money. Okay, get out and enjoy some of this, even if it's just to go into your local park. Every area has a park. Just walk around, sit out there, feed the birds. And if you're going to feed the birds, don't feed them bread. They can't digest it. So feed them birdseed or corn or something else. It'd be better for them. Birdseed would be best because it was designed for birds. Geese and ducks, they love rice. So I'm enjoying these birds again. And I'm watching the clouds come in, so just as I can see the clouds and know that a storm is coming, just turn on the news for 5 minutes and you know that a storm is coming. Every major city now has got shootings going on. People feeling that they can just take a life and not bat an eye. They're catching these people and there is no remorse. And most of them say that if you put me out, I'll kill as many as I can, because they're influenced by the devil. Okay, I'm rambling. Enjoy some of the footage of the park. And I'm trying to talk about it when I get a chance so that you can check out your state, what area you have, that you live in. Every state has state parks. Most states have federal parks. Georgia has no federal parks. There's federal land, but no parks, because there's enough state ones here. I guess they don't need any. Until we meet in the clouds, which are coming in now. God bless. One of the things you want to check with when you're coming to a campsite is what wood you can bring. Picking wood up from along the trails, you can do a little bit of that, but if there's enough people coming, there won't be very much. Guaranteed if you bring some charcoal, there'll be a fire pit, or in this case, a barbecue. And you can see these in town at a city park. You can cook on those, they're fine. Just bring some of the standard hookup tools to do that. You got these hooks up here to put your lamps on if you've got a standard propane lamp or electric, it doesn't matter. I'm going to sit down here in the shade. There's my selfie stick. I'm going to set that up and we'll teach a lesson here to go along with this. The trail leading up to my campsite. There's campsite 3. Again, plenty of signage. You shouldn't have any problem finding your way. There's my tent with my chair and everything all ready. You've got a water area. These pumps are easy enough to use. You just lift the handle. And we've actually got electricity in this one. I don't need it, but it's here. And again, here's where you can build a fire with wood. If you don't have wood, you can get it from the rangers, from the main station. A lot of times they prefer you to bring wood from an approved site. A lot of these trees up here are good and healthy, and you can see it. There's always plenty of signage to tell you what to do. You call the office, or of course anywhere 911, and it's multi-language, so you've got information here for everybody. Right now the COVID rules allow the play yard to be open, so we have an area for adults to play on here, and then you have something for the kids over here. Or maybe it's backwards, but in any case they're next to each other, so you can pick which one you want. This is midweek and school is still in session, so there's a lot of empty sites during the week. Weekends are a problem. If you want to go camping on the weekends, you really have to dig to find some place, because that's the only time people have free right now. And I can see up in there, there's a trailer. It's our camp host. Every site tries to have a host that can be there to answer questions. But I have seen off and on all day long, non-stop park vehicles, so there's plenty of state officials here. There aren't many things I like about our government for what they do to protect nature and God's creation. I do like that part of it. Most state parks have some form of dedicated camping that you can get into. These yurts here are really quite nice. You can get inside, you don't have to bring a whole lot. And they're pretty well set up, and they're separated enough. And you've got standard places to hook your lights up to, table to sit at, and a couple of choices for cooking. One's obviously just charcoal, and you can build a wood fire in the ring. You can cook on either one. So they're pretty nice. And they of course have electricity and water. And depending on how close they are to the water and what trees you have, you can get yourself a view. And we have a squirrel on the tree. He's going up the other side, so I can't watch him. Oh, there he goes. If you think you want to try camping at a state park, open up your website for your state park listings and find one near you, and there should be a number you can call. You can do everything entirely online, or you can call and tell them what you're interested in doing and they'll help you. I have an airplane going over me, so like I said before, I'm still close to civilization. There's an airport fairly close by, and I saw some small jets going out of it, so it's big enough to let them take on and off. And they put up signs around. I've got a boat dock down here. There's no swimming, it says, with the sign. But if you do want to check into kayak or canoe rental, or if you have your own, you can also check with the park office. This is a Georgia number, so unless you're planning on coming here, don't call it. So we have no swimming. That's because there's fallen trees. Most of these lakes were created with a dam. You really can't tell until they get real low. We're not at that point right now. I saw a frog go in the water. Again, I do not see. Okay, now I do. It's hard to see, you probably can't, but there are some small minnows in here. It's hard to tell what they are in this murky water. I heard a frog over there in the brush, so there's one over there somewhere. And they're not alone. Okay, I'll tack this onto the end of another video.